cut that the people of this country just demand needs to exist again, it can always be voted back into existence by Senator Ernst and her colleagues. And
totally.
The fact that isn't going to happen reveals exactly why many of these agencies, really, deletion is the only answer that's left.
Yes, that's exactly right. If it turns out we really need such an organization in the future, we just create it. Problem solved.
By the people.
Yes, by the people, answerable and answerable to the people and to the people's elected representatives. That is the way that government is supposed to work.
That I agree. And more transparency. Sunshine is the best disinfectant out there.
And they hate sunshine. That tells you something.
Yes. we need to be able to exercise our oversight. And this is where we have been blocked so long in Congress. You can go onto my official website on the internet. Yep. You can look through my priorities, go to my squeal area. You can go back. I've got the last several years on there of efforts, whether it's USAID, NIH, the National Institutes of Health, those taxpayer dollars that were going to China's Wuhan Institute of Virology, SNAP overpayments through USDA and the states, you name it. Just even my back to work report, the out of the office that we've talked so much about. Yes. And on day one, the president came in and said, hey, everybody back to work. Yeah. I don't think most Americans understand that only 6% of our federal workforce shows up to work in the office every single day. Only 6%.
Yes, and absolutely. It's truly insane. In fact, and one of the most insane things I've seen was that I was speaking with hopefully our soon-to-be Attorney General, Pam Bondi, and she was telling me that the U.S. engraving, I guess which used to be the U.S. Mint, which is actually a building that is an historic building, actually a beautiful building, it's here in D.C., and the windows are all broken and is turned into a homeless encampment. That means no one comes to work to such a degree that this beautiful building has all the windows broken and is turned into a homeless encampment in downtown D.C. That's how absurd it is. It's beyond belief.
Yeah, and that's why so many of these buildings, if we could repopulate them, that would be great. And that way we can have oversight and make sure employees are doing what they're supposed to do. I'm going to hammer on USAID one more time.
Absolutely.
So we talk about the locality pay abuse, and that's what happens when people aren't working in the office. What they're doing in DC, and not everyone, I don't want to accuse every federal worker of being a bad actor, but I have seen so many examples of this. We had a USAID employee that was falsely using an office supply retailer's mailing address, think like Staples and places like that, using that address in Virginia to defraud the taxpayers by claiming higher Washington, D.C. locality pay, but they were actually living in another state full time. And they had the full knowledge and assistance of their supervisor in pulling off this scam. And then the IG, the USAID IG, blew off my request for an investigation.
What did they give? That seems how can they do that?
They can.
How can they do this?
This is the problem we have, is that there are checks and balances in place where we can write letters all day and we can request IG oversight. But if that IG says, I'm not going to investigate, I'm not interested, I, as a United States Senator, don't have the power to force them to do it. And this is why I'm so excited that we have Doge and that we have a president that's willing to back us up.
Absolutely. So really none of this could be done without the full support of the president. And with regard to the USAID stuff, I went over it with him in detail, and he agreed with that we should shut it down. I want to be clear, and I actually checked with him a few times, said, are you sure? I'm like, yes. So we're shutting it down. And It's also incredibly politically partisan and has been supporting radical left causes throughout the world, including things that are anti-American, which is insane.
Right. And that's why there are probably some arguments to be made about what could be important work that falls under USAID. But the fact of the matter is that it has been overshadowed by these bad actors.
Yes.
If there are truly good pro-American programs, then let's move them to the State Department.
Exactly.
Let's make sure we have proper oversight.
Exactly.
Let's make sure that when senators and congressmen are asking for documents, that they provide them in a timely manner.
Yes.
Let's make sure the IGs are upfront and honest and wanting to be the watchdog over the agencies that they are charged with. This is not rocket scientist, and you're a rocket scientist.
This is simply common sense and being responsive to the electorate. And that's you just can't have these sort of institutions which are taking lots of taxpayer money, but then are not answerable to elected representatives of the public. Then they're totally disconnected. So I call it like we must move away from rule of the bureau to rule of the people, demos.
And I'm hopeful that some of this creates momentum, Joni, with senators, with some of your colleagues as well in passing the REINS Act, right? Half of this is decades of Congress effectively just punting off the responsibility to avoid accountability, not you, but many of your colleagues over the years. And hopefully if this is a catalyst to say, Congress and the Senate say we take the lawmaking power back to the elected representatives of the people and get the kinds of things done that haven't gotten done for years, like the REINS Act and other mechanisms to say lawmaking power comes back to Congress. I think that could be one of the best things to come out of all of this. I'm hopeful that happens this time. I know you're supportive. Yeah.
Like so fundamentally, there's got to be a feedback loop to the people. You can't have these organizations that are just disconnected from the will of the people. Like I said, you just fundamentally do not have a democracy in that situation. You have tyranny of the bureaucracy, which is just inappropriate and needs to end.
By the way, Len, you know who's pumped up about you bringing everybody back to work is actually Muriel Bowser, mayor of D.C.
Okay.
I mean, you're talking about the homeless encampments. I talked to her maybe, last month or month and a half ago. And that's a Democrat. Doesn't matter. It's basically the base principle of A, self-governance, and B, saving money and making sure that our buildings aren't being infested by homeless invasion, but instead is actually creating a thriving capital, I think is